So I'm going to, first of all, just invite Katindi once again to basically say a few preliminary remarks and then to formally hand over the report to the two guests that we have with us, Betty Maina, the Chief Executive of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and on behalf of the Chairperson of the Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution, Charles Nyachai, we have with us Professor Peter Wanyande, who chairs the thematic team on devolution. So this is the appropriate person to receive this on behalf of the Commission. So Katindi.
Before we launch the report, we just wanted to just give you a preview of how you can access the whole report. Now, like I said earlier, the report is 3,000 pages. We couldn't print the county report. So what we have done is done a very comprehensive website where you can download county-specific reports. So you have Nairobi, every county basically is in the website. And then you can download the abridged and the national report as well. So today you're going to get 2 copies of the report. There's the national book, which is about 500 pages, and the abridged version. So we're just going to take you through a run-through of the website just for 2 minutes. We basically, how the website is, you have the link up there. It's inequalities.seedint.net/Kenya. If you want that again, it's inequalities.seedint.net/Kenya. If you go to that website, you'll have an overview of what the report is about. You'll be able to see the social media updates that we've been doing. We have a little bit about the report. We have the abridged version. And in the county report section, which is coming up in a bit, you can download county-specific reports. The idea is to make sure that this conversation can go on as far and wide as possible, just to make sure that this information doesn't die, because it is affecting people's lives. So with that, we invite Betty and Professor Wanyande to launch the report.
This also, you can use your smartphones as well. It's like, okay. I think just before we close, maybe it would be useful to have a few words from Betty and then a couple of words from Peter. So, I don't know if they want to come, if they can come to the podium, maybe that would be better. This part will be very short, colleagues. I know you've been sitting for quite a while.
You trust me. All right. Thank you very much. And a word of congratulations to Katindi and the team at SID for bringing this, pulling all this information together. Because in reality, as they said, it's information that exists. It is part of the census. But a lot of times, once the census is done, we just know how many we are, but we actually don't go and dig deeper into the rest of that information. So I'm very excited that we've had a chance to see what else is in the information, both basically publicly available information. Very excited too that we've been able to break it down and take it to county and ward level. I certainly hope that when it is done, we don't just see who's poorer or who's richer than the other, because usually we then focus only at county levels, and which used to be the districts before. But as the report says, there are deep inequalities even within counties. And that's going to be then the next debate. Rather than, I think we've had the debate in devolution about dividing resources from the center to the counties and which county deserves more because of their different circumstances. But what we'd actually like to hear is the debate within the counties. Once you're in Kiambu, how do you divide resources? Because it has finally come to Kiambu or it has come to Turkana. Are we also able to use the same statistics and the same methods to find out which ward deserves more investment? Because that is when we shall see the actual development. But it is also important to begin to investigate what will be the necessary public investments to reduce inequality. Because inequality is a major issue, not just in Kenya, but it's international right now. I mean, we talk about inequality between countries, but inequality between different regions in different countries. And the biggest debate is about how to reduce inequality within countries. And the methods of doing that are very different from country to country, but a lot of it involves investment of public resources. So when we have our meager public resources in a country like Kenya, how are we investing it, Honorable Mwaura? We put so much resources in personal emoluments, for instance, in facilitation of leaders. We don't put sufficient in the roads, we don't put sufficient in schools, which is really going to be the path through which we can reduce inequality. So I think it does call for a debate about, within the country, but some directed policy making is going to be very, very critical if we're going to address this. We talked a lot earlier on about the inequality as expressed in access to secondary schools education as a major issue. If we had unpacked the primary school one, we might even have focused not so much on enrollment as we did, but also on the quality, which is a major issue. But when it comes to secondary education, part of our big challenge is that we don't have enough schools. So even as we talk about not getting children to school, it's because there are no schools, but there isn't sufficient attention being paid to actually creating the school spaces. It is expensive, yeah, but the reason is that you don't have school spaces. So we need to focus a lot more on the issues that will lead to reduction of this inequality. Our own tax regime and other things will come into debate. So whatever else we hope from the SID perspective, we hope that this spurs a debate in Kenya about what we really will do to address inequalities, and when we are doing it, how we respond. When we talked about the VAT law not so long ago, part of the challenge that government had in explaining its rationale was you don't sort out poverty by giving exempt consumption. You sort out it by investing in public services, but we don't have the same alignment many times. So it becomes quite challenging to even use fiscal policies for addressing inequalities, which is what we must do. So I think as a country, and basically we need to take that step. So on behalf of the Governing Council of the Society for International Development, and certainly on behalf of the President, Ambassador Juma Mwapachu, who could not be here, we are very happy to make this report available to the public in Kenya, not just as a decoration on the shelf or a door stopper. It's really quite a huge document, but for a real candid debate about how we shall address inequalities, and for us as professionals to take these conversations to the next level. So we are quite happy and very excited that you've joined us for this launch, but certainly look forward to a greater conversation and active within counties, within the country, and even within the region, because last week in East Africa, we launched the State of East Africa report, which also talks about increasing inequality within the East Africa region. So this inequality conversation is not going away. It is something that we need to confront, and confront with not using cosmetic methods like we are doing right now. Really focusing on emoluments of public servants or cars and buildings and whatever else they're doing is a wrong thing. We have made very many fundamental problems as a country that we need to sort out, and that is part of the conversation we'd like to at least add our voice to. So I thank you very much, and I welcome the support of the CIC in at least dispersing this information and for the work that they're doing with regard to devolution. But as we have realized this devolution, let's make sure that it does deliver for people. And one of the ways in which it will deliver is when we see marked reduction of inequality in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Betty. Let me invite Professor Peter Wanyande to make a few remarks, Commissioner for the Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much. Let me join my colleagues who have spoken earlier, first in commending the Society for International Development for launching this report, but more importantly, perhaps, for being very consistent in terms of carrying out its mandate. I think one of the challenges that we face in this country is either the failure or reluctance by institutions, whether in the public sector or in the non-state sector, to carry out their mandate and to blame others. And the fact that SID has been very consistent in producing reports on inequality in this country is something that we at CIC must commend. But in doing that, we also hope that other institutions in this country will play their part in terms of, one, reading and internalizing this report, and two, playing their role in terms of ensuring that they implement some of the recommendations that are provided in this report. It is only through each one of us, either individually or collectively, playing their role that we can actually address the concerns of inequality and the challenges that face this country. I think it is not fair to say that leaders are not the ones to blame. I think leaders have a very heavy responsibility, because if you are a leader, you must lead. And if you don't lead, then you have failed. And when we talk about leaders, we're not talking about the political leaders only. Each one of us in our respective institutions are leaders. And so we must take that responsibility seriously. CIC believes that there is a connection between inequality and the issues discussed in the report that we have just launched and the implementation of the Constitution. And since our mandate is to monitor and oversee the implementation of the Constitution, we are hoping that this country will do everything possible to reduce this inequality so that everybody in this country can feel empowered to participate in the implementation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Because if you have a country of very poor people, their concerns will first and foremost be perhaps how to feed themselves. And issues of implementation, issues of governance may unfortunately take a backseat. And yet, those are key and critical issues that this country must also address. So once again, we thank SID for the good work, and we hope that each one of us will not just read the report that we have just launched, but as I said earlier on, go a step further and play a role in ensuring that inequality is reduced. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Wanyande. Let me invite Arthur Muliro to do a quick vote of thanks. An event like this involves a lot of people, and then also to do that which we are waiting for him to welcome us to do something interesting.
Thank you, Rungu. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's a privilege and a joy for me to be here to be able to extend a vote of thanks to you all on behalf of the Society for International Development and all those to whom have contributed to the success of this day in one way or another. The American President John Adams is on record as having said, "Facts are stubborn things." And whatever may be our wishes, our inclination, or the dictates of our passions, they cannot alter the state of facts and the evidence. That is the report we have presented today. And in many respects, what we have is in essence a scorecard of the last 50 years of independence of this country. In a few weeks, we will come together as a nation to celebrate 50 years of freedom and to look ahead. And the next 50 years should be informed by the messages that are being put out in this report. And I think as we do that, we have a few choices to make as citizens, as individuals, as a nation. The first choice, which is perhaps simpler, is that we can quibble about the data, whether they tell a picture that we see or don't see, and we can shoot the messenger. It's easy to do. After all, SID is neither here nor there in many ways, and you can say the data doesn't quite tell the story of my constituency, my ward, or whatever. We can have another choice, which is to look at the report as, and many of us have said before here this morning, as a means to be able to begin a dialogue and to say, what have we learned from this? What do we need to do differently? We can benchmark our thinking, our actions on the data that is presented in this. And as SID, we believe that this is seminal presentation for a number of reasons. First, we think it's the first report that looks really at the challenges of this country from the national level right down to the ward level. And the information that provided there, I think, is significant food for thought. Again, not just for the leaders, but for all of us as individuals. I think in this country, like to blame our leaders a lot for our predicament. It is true, they have perhaps a significant amount to answer for, but I think ourselves as citizens also have to look at the choices that we make and what consequences they lead to. Therefore, it is our belief that the judgments that we make about the performances of us as a collective need to be also looked at in light of how far we are able to move from the picture that has been presented in the data today. As an institution, the Society for International Development, it is our intention to provide another report in the next 5 years that will document what has happened, that will try and capture the trends, and hopefully will provide more food for conversation and for dialogue as we move ahead on our development path and meet the challenges. And at the end of it all, I think we also need to recognize it is not just so much about the monuments that will be built, and there will be many, but it will also be about the changes that we made to the lives of those at the bottom, the lives of people like Ajem, who you saw in the video. So, with those few words, I'd like to thank all of those who have made this day a possibility, in particular our partners, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Without them, this report would not have come true, but we have found a way to work with them, and I think the trust and the partnership that we have been able to develop, I think, is significant, and we would like to go on record as saying we appreciate that very much. I'd also like to recognize our partners, Danida, who, in one way also accepted the concept and said, well, it looks interesting, see what can come out of it. And they did not interfere. The work that has been done is largely the work of the team here at the Society for International Development. And with that, I'd like to introduce my colleagues, and perhaps if the team at the Society for International Development Nairobi office and beyond can let themselves be seen. We are not very many. Please stand up, guys. Katindi, Leonard. Okay, these are the people who have put together this report. There. Some of them are over here at the back of the room and to your left. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you very much for your time and your endless dedication to make this day happen. I'd also like to thank our external partners, particularly on the media side, Pamoja Media and Trinic. If you see some people that have been blogging and tweeting, you might have seen up there on the website that there seems to be a conversation going on. They have also been engaging with us, and I'd like also to thank them very much for their listening skills and being able to capture what has been said here and translate it into 140 characters. That is the length of a tweet, and put it out there. So finally, as we leave, I hope we can take the courage that together we can make a difference, and that our dedication and commitment can become a crusade that makes this country where rich and poor alike can be proud to be a part of it, and that they have a stake in its future. I hope that we shall merely not reaffirm our belief in the principle of equity, but also rededicate ourselves to the task of bringing about a society in which the values of equity, justice, and sustainability hold an honored place in our homes, in our hearts, and in this nation. Thank you very much for coming, and you're welcome to collect a publication and to join us for lunch afterwards. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.